We all knew that the Rangers could be sending their first round pick this year as opposed to next year. I'm not sure why it felt like, at least for me, that it didn't fully process until it became official. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Yes, it became official. That first round pick that was going to be paid to the Penguins either this year or next year as a result of the Marcus Pettersson, Drew O'Connor trade with Vancouver, depending on which way Chris Drury was going to choose, he chose now. He chose 2025. So what that leaves for the Penguins Friday night in the first round of the NHL draft is back-to-back first-rounders. Not just two first-rounders, but back-to-back at numbers 11 and 12 overall. Sounds exciting, right? Double your chances. And as Kyle Dubas told Taylor Haas of DK Pittsburgh Sports about a month ago, I'm quoting directly here, from our perspective, it really doesn't make any difference, meaning they're scouting, because we're picking number 11. So if we have number 11 and number 12, the preparation isn't any different at all. And it makes perfect sense. You're scouting for players in that range. And of course, earlier, you're scouting for players who are higher in the draft because you never know what might happen on that front. And that's where it starts getting really interesting. Because not only do the Penguins now have numbers 11 and 12 in this class, they also have only about 1 billion other picks over the next 3 years. And although it obviously takes two teams to make a deal, you would think they'd at least be able to engage in conversations if Dubas chooses to move up with one of those picks. Because the hard truth of a phase of a franchise's evolution, like the one that the Penguins are currently going through, is that you do need the elite talent, or potentially elite talent, high ceiling guys, the gambles, the ones who might have some question marks, but not necessarily their ability on the hockey rink. And even if there are issues with those players, they end up getting drafted high regardless, because they can do things that other 18-year-old humans can't do. What's more, and I'm going to keep pushing this into perpetuity, the sooner you get the draft pick in the fold, the sooner that pick can have some sort of alignment with the remainder of Sidney Crosby's career. All of which I will put forth here is pretty freaking exciting. And infinitely more exciting than any scenario in which the Penguins would just continue to kind of swim along with the status quo. But, now watch how I do this. I can say all of that with a straight face and complete conviction, and at the same time say that you don't need to be trading Brian Rust and or Rickard Rakell. Find a way to move Erik Karlsson. Make sure the closet's being cleaned from the Noel Acciari types, but make damn sure that there's enough players here for the team to still be competitive enough, not to save face, not to make Sid smile, but to keep this process from plunging into the figurative ravine and giving all concerned a much, 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 much steeper challenge from which to emerge. You don't need to do it. Keep adding talents like these two on Friday night, then make space for them. Pretty rare to see 18-year-olds, at least 18-year-olds who aren't selected in the top handful of a draft, come right in and make an impact. But keep the door open and the mind open. And if you're able to move up even a little bit higher, then keep the door a little wider open and the mind a little wider open. The same goes for the players in Wilkes-Barre, not just the obvious ones, Rutger McGroarty and Ville Koivunen, but the Tristan Brose class, that category. Let those be the players who take the spots of the Acciaris and so forth. Same goes for the back end. You know, I wasn't kidding when I was saying early last fall that if Harrison Brunick's good enough, go ahead and be a part of this blue line. Go ahead and do that now. Brunick's 19. He's got nothing to gain from going back to juniors. I was told by a team official last week that he really impressed later on in his time with Wilkes-Barre this past season. They really liked what they saw. Well, if he's doing that there, and he's impressing everyone the way he did in Pittsburgh last fall, come on, you know? If you can have these players buttressed by playing as part of a top six that includes Sid and Rust and Raquel and Gino and Koivunen and McGroarty in whatever order, then you're going to be good and young. And depending on how you work things out with your bottom six, you could end up with a scoring unit or a hopeful scoring unit or a hybrid scoring unit that's also young, and a fourth line that can be largely young but anchored by a real leader type, another real leader type in Kevin Hayes. Those guys lead, other guys learn. There'll still be more of the latter. The same can apply on the blue line. I'm just going to keep presuming that Karlsson won't be brought back, if only because I get the distinct sense that everybody'd really rather prefer it that way, including Karlsson himself. But you still have the greatest defenseman in franchise history, minding the store. If there's going to be a significant veteran free agent signing of any kind, my belief is that it'll be a left-handed defenseman. But there's plenty of youth to be had back there as well, not least of whom is yet another first-round pick in Owen Pickering, who is really, I mean, I know he had a little bit of a struggle last season, and Mike Sullivan seemed to kind of sour on him, but this kid, in addition to having the physical tools that he has a head on his shoulders, a hockey head on his shoulders, and he's going to be fine. Even in goal, there's youth. Even in goal, you're going to see, and this came straight from Dubas shortly after the season, a real competition. He doesn't want to lean toward his veterans in the camp competition. He wants whoever the two best guys are to be the ones who are here in Pittsburgh. If that's Tristan Jarry and Alex Nedeljkovic, okay. If that's Yoel Blomqvist, if that's Sergei Murashov, okay. That's the right way to go about it. You can see what I'm getting at here and why anytime there's news like this from yesterday, the picture just continues to feel more complete. It seems reasonable to ask in that context that you don't do something dumb to blow it up. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Steven, who asks, hey, DK, in your opinion, which option do you believe would be the most beneficial to the Penguins? 1, keep these 2 draft picks at 11 and 12. 2, hypothetically package them to move up to, let's say, somewhere in the top 4 or 5. The first thing I'm going to say here, Steven, is that it's going to take a lot to get into the top 4 or 5. You're going to have to part with something, because the teams that are up there are teams that are looking for the same things that you are for the most part. If I read off the top half dozen teams, number 1, the Islanders won the lottery. They're not making a trade with you. 2 is the Sharks. They need to continue building on top of Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith and a couple other young guys that they have who are pretty promising. 3 is the Blackhawks, who are going to be rebuilding from now until the end of time. 4 is Utah, and they've been going all young for about a decade straight. 5 is Nashville, where Barry Trotz seems just determined to clean house of all of his younger players and send them all to Pittsburgh, but presumably so that he can get other younger players. 6 is the Flyers. They're also not going to be making a trade with Pittsburgh. 7 is the Bruins, who are unquestionably post-Brad Marchand, looking to get a lot younger. 8 is Seattle, which is still young. They're looking for significant help on the blue line. 9 are the Sabres. C Blackhawks. On this one, they'll be rebuilding for the next dozen millennia or so. 10 is the Ducks. And what are you going to do? Move up from 11 and 12 to get to 10? So it helps to remember whenever talking about these scenarios that you got to have somebody else be a partner for you, as I mentioned in the opening segment. I don't see a whole lot of that here. I don't see a whole lot of teams that are in that top 10 who would consider themselves to be ready to make the big move. And yeah, we'll take some of your veterans, go ahead and take our pick, or even to take on a volume of picks to trade out. That would suggest that it's not going to be a very good draft, and that's not really the overwhelming sentiment. I don't know that it's seen as some spectacular class, but there are real live players, and you have a chance to get a real live player, a better chance by staying exactly where you are than by moving down in exchange for a package of lower round picks. So I wouldn't take this too far, this notion of moving up. It's there. It's a possibility, and you never know when it's going to happen. I was on the draft floor when Craig Patrick went all the way to number 1 overall to get Marc-Andre Fleury, and my jaw hit the floor like everybody else's. But it's not the norm, and it's not to be expected. Another thing to consider as a variable in all of this is that the Penguins aren't the only team in the first round that has multiple picks in that round. The Canadiens, for example, have 16 and 17. The Flyers have 6 and 22 and 31. The Predators also have 3, 5, and 23 and 26. You get the idea. There are other teams that could be offering what Pittsburgh would offer, only they have more of it to offer. So you'd have to compete with them, and yet they also have slots ahead of you in most cases. To try to answer your question, the actual question that you asked, I want to say to you that what matters most for the Penguins is finding one, no doubt, impact scorer. More than anything else, in the post-Sid era, or even the conclusion of the Sid era, what everyone around here needs to see, and I don't just mean externally, I mean internally, is skill, is high-level skill. Who's going to replace that? And if it doesn't come from the draft, where will it come from? You're this close. You're this close. How can you get even just a little bit closer? I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll have another one of these tomorrow on NHL Draft Eve.